Hmm? Good evening, my dear viewers. Welcome to the very first class. Good evening, my dear viewers. Welcome to the very first episode of our 8th Burial Bread class. Today is week 1, and I'm so excited to be here. This is week 1 of the 12-week long course that is going to transform you from being a beginner to becoming a professional bread maker. I'm going to literally carry your hands along and help you understand. You're going to learn basic bread recipes, and then you're going to go on to complex artisan bread loaves. You also understand that these two hands that God has given you is the best equipment you need to bake bread. And of course, that's your kitchen stove, or that's your charcoal stove, or even your gas cooker that you may have a feeling that you cannot use to make bread. We are going to use it to make bread in this class. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Today, we're going to learn a things. First of all, you're going to understand what exactly makes bread rise. Second, we're going to learn how to properly knead dough to make even your homemade bread soft and fluffy. Third, I'm going to expose you to a trick that I used when I was making bread initially, because when I started making bread to sell, I did not have any mixer. I did not have any fancy equipment. I used my hands. But it's a particular trick that I used, and I'm going to be disclosing that with you today. And fourth, I'm going to show you 3 interesting bread hacks that you can use to make your bread eating more enjoyable. So bread eating is not just bread and tea or bread and egg. No, you can actually eat bread in different fun and creative ways and have fun with it as you go. And of course, you have the Q&A section where I'll be open to answering any and all questions you may have about bread. So before we get started, I want to also add that this class will be translated in sign language. If there's any deaf person that is interested in learning how to make bread, you are welcome. Please don't worry. After this class, I'm going to translate it in sign language for your benefit. So for our hearers in the audience, Please, if you know any deaf person that can benefit from this class, please let them know that this class is also meant for them. Thank you very much. At this point, I want to ask, if there's any person that is joining me in baking, simply just type in the comment section, I am baking. And there's anybody that is not really baking alongside me, but just wants to learn and is sitting back to really enjoy the class, just let me know. Just type, I am learning. I also want to know your names and where you're watching us from. So please do that before we get on to the activity for today. All right. So is there anyone baking with me? Can you say you're baking or can you say you're learning? I want to know who is actually joining me in this bread making course today and actively participating. I want to know your name and where you're watching us from before we get started, because this is a quiz time. I'm going to ask a question, and before I forget, I have a reward for the most engaging students in this class. So make sure you engage and participate, because something nice is coming your way. So do we have any students that has said he's baking or he's learning? All right, not yet. No problem. So let me just ask a quick question, right? When it comes to baking bread, how many basic ingredients do you think we need to make bread? Do we need 4 ingredients, or 6, or 8, or even 10? What do you think? How many ingredients are required to make bread? Good. When it comes to basic bread making, you don't need more than 4 ingredients: flour, salt, water, and yeast. Any other serere you add to bread is now making it an enriched dough, because basic bread ages back to thousands of years ago, and at the time they didn't even have yeast. So what they did was mold the bread, with flour, water, and salt, and keep it in a natural environment for natural yeast to act on it. But now there is yeast. So basic bread was made with just basic 4 ingredients. But for today, we are going to be making an enriched bread dough called the Tangzhong milk bread. It is a very, very easy and delicious bread to make. And I'm going to be showing you all the secrets there are to being able to make this bread by yourself at home. So these are the ingredients we are going to be using to make our Tangzhong milk bread today. First of all on the list is flour. This is not just any kind of flour, it is bread flour. There are different types of flour available. We have cake flour, there's also all-purpose flour, and then there is bread flour. Bread flour is best for making bread because it contains all the proteins required to make the bread cold. Later in this class, I'm going to be explaining more about the proteins I'm referring to when it comes to bread making. Flour does to bread what a block does to the house. It gives the bread structure. Without block in a house, the house will not hold, right? And so without good flour, the bread will not hold. It is as simple as that. The next ingredient I have here is salt. I like to call salt the small but mighty ingredient in bread making. If you skip on your salt, you'll miss a lot when it comes to making bread. Not only does salt give bread its delicious flavor and taste, salt is very, very important in balancing the yeast activity. Later in this class, I'm going to be explaining how yeast acts and behaves in bread. And salt plays a role in helping to balance the yeast activity so that the yeast can give that delicious, flavorful, fermented taste that we all love bread to have. You don't want to ever without salt. The next ingredient I have here with me is sugar. Sugar is not only responsible for making the bread sweet, sugar also helps the bread rise. It helps to move the yeast to be able to rise and grow properly because it feeds the yeast. Carbohydrate present, apart from the carbohydrate present in the flour, the carbohydrate present in the sugars also feeds the yeast. So you really want to have enough food for the yeast to eat. Of course, yeast is a living organism. So moving forward, this is milk. For this milk bread, we cannot skip on milk, right? Because it's a milk bread. Milk basically gives the bread that rich texture and flavor, and that is why we have milk. But of course, you can skip on milk, but for this recipe we need milk. This is oil. Oil gives the bread softness and texture. It is a very important ingredient in making this particular bread, and for whatever bread you want to make, you really want to give it that elasticity and that texture. Next up on my list is yeast. You see how I have stored my yeast properly? This is how you want to keep your yeast, but let me just show you so that you can see what it looks like. This is yeast. Yeast is a living microorganism that gives bread that rise that you need it to have. For that, as we proceed in this class, I'm going to be explaining to you how yeast really behaves in bread so that you can really understand why yeast is important and why you need to make bread in a certain way to get the best out of the yeast. Last but not least is egg. Egg is a natural softener. It contains lecithin, which is an enzyme that helps it hold everything it enters in place. So when you put egg inside your bread dough, bread in place, it binds up the ingredients together. Sorry, last but not least now is water. Speaking of binding, water is a hydrant. It is the most soluble solution in the world. It dissolves everything that it comes in contact with. And so when it comes to making bread, everything will just be hang loose without adding water into it. So water is meant for hydrating the dough and for dissolving all the ingredients, helping them to have a very good mix together. So let's get right into the bread. Now we are going to start measuring the ingredients together. I love to measure with my scale because it helps me to get all the measurements accurately. But if you don't have a scale, don't worry. I'm still going to help you know how you can still measure it with a cup or with a tablespoon. That's why I have them here as a guide. But first, we're going to use the scale. So let's get started. Remember I told you about a secret hack that I used to make my bread soft and fluffy every time? It is called Tangzhong. So the first thing we're going to be doing now is making our Tangzhong. To make Tangzhong, all you need to do is to add a percentage of flour and then a percentage of water together so that you will make a paste. Tangzhong simply refers to a gelatinized paste. It comes all the way from East Asia, and I adopted it and borrowed it into my bread recipes. And there's hardly any bread I make that doesn't have Tangzhong inside, right? Because I really love what it does to bread. Tangzhong makes your bread cold. It makes the bread soft and fluffy. So even if your bread is made by hand, it can still stay soft and fluffy for days on end without ever going hard. So make sure you don't skip on this process. So for this recipe, I'll be using 25 grams of flour, okay? Want to make sure it's exactly 25 grams of flour. Good. This is approximately 3 tablespoons of flour. Now, the secret behind Tangzhong is multiply the quantity of flour by 5 to get the quantity of water you're going to use. So 25 multiplied by 5 is 125. So I'll be adding 125 grams of water. Do you understand? Good. So now I'm going in with my water. It's a little overboard, but I'm still going to leave it at that. So what you want to do now, if you're using your tablespoon, so that means you're going to have 3 tablespoons of flour and 15 tablespoons of water. You mix it like so. You keep mixing. Make sure there are no lumps inside as you mix. Mix it until it forms a smooth paste. Keep going. Can you see what I'm doing? Please, if anyone is already point with me, let me know. If you're already making your Tangzhong, let me know. I want to see your comments and see how it's going for you. So this is what mine looks like. Now I'm going to put it on fire, on low heat, and stir as I go so that it forms a thick paste. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to do now. So I'm stirring it. At this point, I'm stirring it. I don't want it to have any lumps, so you just have to keep stirring. Bread making requires a whole lot of patience, right? So you keep stirring until it forms the paste you want to have. All right, I hope you can see me now. So I'm stirring gently. This is a very, very important step in making soft and fluffy handmade bread. You see, when you want to make bread, you want to make sure that you learn as many tips and tricks as possible, because if you don't have a mixer, you're gonna suffer when it comes to making your bread soft and fluffy. So this hack I'm teaching you saved me a whole lot. I got tired of eating bread that is strong like stone. That's why I discovered this and I'm sharing it with you today. Mine is coming out really nice. It's beginning to look like pap. Yeah, that is what you want. So now I have to increase the intensity of my mix so that it does not form any lump. You don't want it to have any lump at all. At no point at all should you have a lump in your Tangzhong roux. Yeah, so it's coming up well, good and nice. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I cannot wait to show you what I have here. All right, I think my Tangzhong is just about done. Yep, at this point, I'm going to take it off the heat and show you what exactly we have here. Can you see this? You see this paste? This is a Tangzhong roux. This is a very, very important step in making Tangzhong milk bread. It changes everything completely. In a little while, you're going to understand this better. So now we have the Tangzhong. What is very, very important in this recipe is having your Tangzhong cool down. But we can't wait for it to cool down completely. We can just, if you can't wait for it to cool down completely, you can just simply add your water to it. Do you understand? Because if you add water to it, it will cool it down completely. So I want to know who has made his or her Tangzhong at this point. Share with me. Let me know. Let me know what step you are in, what you have done, where you are at. I want you to engage me in the comment section. Has anyone made his Tangzhong yet? So who has made his Tangzhong? right. All right, let's move forward with our bread class. Moving forward, now we weigh the ingredients, right? We are going to start with the dry ingredients. Okay, I'm supposed to cool the Tangzhong down. So I'm going to go in with 150 grams of water just to cool the Tangzhong down. 150 grams of water. I'm going to weigh it now. And that's approximately 1 cup of water. So I'm just going to pour it into this Tangzhong mixture for it to cool down for me, because I don't want it to be hot. So while this is cooling down, we'll go on with weighing the remaining ingredients. The flour is going to be 500 grams of flour. 500 grams of flour. That's what we have here. Good. I'm going to weigh all the dry ingredients first before I go on to the wet ingredients. So are you with me? Let's do this. 500 grams of flour is approximately 3¼ cup of flour. So if you have this cup measure, just measure 3¼ of this. It gives you approximately 500 grams of flour. Right. So the next, I'm going to be adding is sugar. So I'm going to be putting in 60 grams of sugar. And 60 grams of sugar is approximately 1/4 cup. Next, I'm going in with the salt. I need, for this recipe, 6 grams of salt. And that's approximately ½ tablespoon of salt. So if you have a tablespoon measure, just follow along. You'll not get lost at all. If you follow everything I'm saying the way you're supposed to. Right. And so next up is the milk. I have powdered milk here. But if you have liquid milk, please make sure that you replace your milk with water. Since it's liquid, you don't want to add the measurement for your liquid milk and add it to the measurement for water. Your bread will turn out too sticky. So replace it with water, or you do plus and minus. Let's say your liquid milk weighs about 100 grams. I need like 150 grams of water. So instead of adding 150 grams of water, you only need to add 50 grams of water to the 100 grams of milk. I hope you understand me. Please, if at any point you're stuck and you don't understand, feel free to ask questions. I'll be glad to answer your questions. So we're going in with our milk. Because this is milk bread, I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons of milk because I can. All right, now let's go here with 2 tablespoons of milk. And that gives us approximately 10 grams of milk. Oh, here I have 11. All right. Then, last but not least, the yeast. For this recipe, we're going to be using 5 grams of yeast, which is ½ tablespoon of yeast. So now I have all the dry ingredients weighed out. We go to the next step, which is mixing the dry ingredients together. You want to make sure that your dry ingredients are well incorporated. Do not skip on this step, because if you do, one side of your bread is going to be salty, the other side is going to be sweet. You don't want that to happen. So make sure that you do not skip on this mixing part. So make sure you whisk them together. Mix them together. Keep mixing. Be patient. Enjoy the process. It's fun. Yeah. So if anybody is mixing with me today, just tell me I'm mixing. If you're mixing with me, just say I'm mixing. Yeah, I want to see those who are actually mixing with me here right now. So I think we are good with where the dry ingredients are at this point. Now we're going to move for the pot to dash in the pot my my Tangzhong. So I'm going to make sure I cup the egg right into the right. Good. Now I'm incorporating them together. It's a beautiful mix. This is what you want to see. So I'm simply just going to pour it into the dry mixture of. This is what we have here now. Now I mix again. At this point, it has become thickened, so my whisk cannot mix it again. I have to go in with my hands. So I'm just going to scrape down the sides of the whisk so that I get all the and out completely. This is a very, very important step. Oh. So please do not miss this step of mixing your ingredients by hand when it becomes too thick for your mixer. Sorry, for your hand whisk. Excuse my grammar. All right, so at this point, I'm just simply using my hand to combine it. You get, I'm just combining it like so. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm combining at this point. So at this point that the flour and the water are mixing together but have not fully incorporated, I will not knead it. I will leave it to autolyse. Hang on, I'm going to explain what I mean shortly. I'm just simply going to remove all the dough from my hand. It's already looking good. Don't worry if your hand is sticky, it's part of the job, right? But this stickiness yields very, very beautiful results. So it's good sticky. Very, very good sticky. We like this kind of sticky. Just all the dough from your hand, or as much as you can remove. And we're going to allow the bread to autolyse. It has not become a bread yet, so still call it dough. We're going to allow the dough to autolyse. Please, who is at this point with me? Who has gotten to this point with me? I want to know who has gotten to this point with me. Just type I am there. And if you have any questions up until this point, please let me know and I'll be glad to answer any and all of your questions. So this is the point where we let the bread autolyse, sorry, the dough autolyse. All you need to do is let it rest for a couple of minutes and then cover it. So what is happening to this dough now at this point? When you let the bread autolyse before you start kneading, the bread starts to absorb all the moisture inside. The water starts to break down the compounds that are in the flour, making it more pliable and soft. Easy for you to knead and easy for you to manage. The gluten structure starts to form. This is very, very important, especially if you're making handmade bread. You don't want to skip on this. You can actually auto-lease for up to 10 minutes if you like, but auto-leasing is a very, very important step in making bread by hand. And in so many artisan loaves, you don't want to skip on this process. So while this is happening, I'd like to engage the class at this point. So who has gotten to this point and who has any questions to ask? Please feel free to ask any questions you have and feel free to engage. Okay, yeah, I can see Taiwo Akpan says you make yours later. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Please do well to send a picture to me when you make yours. I'd like to see what results you get from your bread. And just maybe a gift awaits you. All right. So while our bread is also leasing, we're going to talk about a very, very important step. Okay. Let me just quickly clear up. I'm done with all this, most of these ingredients, so that I have space for kneading. But that's what comes next, right? So I want to ask a question. Why is it important to knead bread? Who can answer that question? Why do we need to knead? Why do we need to knead? Is this Darren? Why do we need to knead our bread? Yes. So why do we need bread? I'm waiting for answers. I'm waiting for answers. Who has answers to the question? Please let me know your answers. Why should you knead your bread? Hmm? Any response? It's a way of beautiful. That's a very, very beautiful response. Now, let us make it very, very clear. Have you ever done crocheting before? Or have you ever seen anybody crocheting before? You carry two pieces of yarn, right? And use a crochet to make a structure so that you can make maybe a bag or a cap or a sweater, but you're just trying to make a network, right? So when you are kneading bread, you're simply building a network or a structure called gluten mesh. It is that gluten structure that traps air into the bread. Where does this air come from? The air comes from yeast. We said earlier that yeast is a microorganism. Yeast is a living microorganism that feeds on sugars and carbohydrates. It feeds on the carbohydrate present in the flour. It feeds on the carbohydrate present in sugars. And when it belches full, it's gonna belch. When it belches, it releases air into the bread, and that air makes the bread rise. So as the bread is rising, if there is nothing to cover the air or to protect the air or the gas from escaping, the air is going to escape from the bread. That is the reason why when you bake bread and you don't knead it properly, the bread will collapse and be like this. And it's now be heavy, like what you want to go and sacrifice. You will think that it is the bread that has problem. Meanwhile, it's not the bread, it's because you don't knead it properly. So kneading is a very, very important step in bread making that under no circumstances should you miss. Except, of course, if you want to make flat breads that don't require kneading. But if you want to make a soft and fluffy bread, you can never skip on kneading bread. Now, flour, as is like this, contains two important proteins. One is called glutamine, and the other is called gliadin. When flour mixes with water and you start to knead it, gluten is formed. It is that gluten that is responsible, as I said earlier, for giving the bread that structure that it requires, for trapping the gas from the yeast as the bread rises. I think our bread has also least enough. it's time to get kneading so that we can really put what we are saying into practice. So we already have a flat surface. All we need to do is to pour the bread on the work table like so and let the kneading begin. You see the process of kneading, it has to be a very, very gentle and intentional process. Please, if someone has made you angry today, don't remember that person. Oh, don't use the anger of what that person did to you to knead this bread. Oh, because if you are thinking of negative things as you are kneading bread, you are going to tear your gluten structure. If you have a baby, when you bath the baby and you are rubbing cream on the baby's body and you're massaging the baby, how do you do it? Gently and with love, right? That's exactly how to knead bread. So just think about your baby or think about massaging someone that you love gently, you see, with intention. So you fold, you push it down and turn. Remember, I've not added oil yet to this bread. So because it's a handmade bread, we want to make sure that the bread forms to a particular level before we add oil so that everything will come together easier for us. So I fold, I push it to the center, raise it up and push it to the center, raise it up and push it to the center, like so. That's exactly what I'm doing. And then you turn. You do this and then you turn. Wow, this is actually coming together nicely. One thing you have to note is that Tangzhong milk bread is a very soft bread. So even if it's sticking on your hand, please don't be tempted to start adding too much flour. Because one of the reasons why your bread turns out hard is because when it starts getting sticky, just want it to leave your hand alone. And you start putting flour. And the more flour you add, the more hard the bread becomes. So resist whatever temptation you have to add unnecessary amount of flour at this point. Even if you want to add flour, just lightly dust your work area with flour and knead on. So now it's time for our oil. This recipe, we're going to be using 60 grams of oil for it. So let me weigh that quickly and come back. So I'm going to be adding the oil gradually. I'm not putting all at once. And the oil is going to help me. Where is oil going to? Come back here. It's going to help me successfully knead the dough without it sticking too much on my hands. Remember, we are gently massaging it, right? So I have a question for you. Based on what we have discussed so far, based on what we have discussed so far, what exactly does gluten structure mean? Who can answer that question? What does gluten structure mean? So you can see how I'm incorporating the oil inside. So who is typing the answer? What does gluten structure mean? So remember what I said about gluten structure? It's a network that grows as you knead the bread. As you knead the bread, you are building a network called gluten structure. It is this network that allows the bread to form and become that soft and fluffy bread that you like to eat. Without properly building this gluten structure, the bread will not turn out the way you want it to. So do not skip on this process. It's a very, very important process, forming the gluten network. So you see, I'm still adding the oil gradually. Turning and folding, turning and folding. This is what you want your bread to look like. So have you ever baked bread before and the bread did not rise? Have you ever made bread before? Like you made bread? Because that happened to me before. That happened to me before. Have you ever made bread before and the bread did not rise? Just type yes or no in the comment section so that I will know where we'll start from. Who has ever made bread before and the bread did not rise? Who? Let me know, my friends, my partners in crime. So I've added the last part of oil to the bread. You have made bread. Taiwo said she has made bread and the bread did not rise. Good. All right. There are four things that may have made your bread not to rise. The first culprit is yeast. Maybe the yeast you bought was not a good one. Like for me, it was the yeast that actually caused my problem for me. If the yeast you get is an expired yeast, then the yeast will not perform properly for you. Most of the time, it's better to buy yeast in an airtight sealed pack already, not those ones that they retail like they've already tied. Sometimes you cannot really know how long it has been in the shop before they sell it. So the first, good, the yeast had expired, exactly. So when you get expired yeast, there is no way that yeast is gonna work for you. The yeast have died. All right, at this point, our bread has formed to an extent. It's going to go through its first resting process. It's not rising, finito, but just letting it to rest. I'm going to explain shortly why this is very, very important. Now we let it rest, we cover it a little, and then we continue our gist. So, as you rightly said, yeast expired. That was why the yeast did not function properly for you. Another reason why bread, the temperature is too cold. If you bake bread in a place that the temperature is too cold and you don't do anything about the temperature, the bread will not rise because the cold temperature does not allow for the yeast to act properly in the bread. Good. A third reason might be that the yeast had died because of too much salt in the bread. As I said earlier, salt is very, very important for bread making, but too much salt can actually kill the yeast. So as much as you want to add salt in your bread, you want to make sure that you balance the quantity of salt so that it does not overact in the bread to the yeast, right? And the fourth culprit is the dough not being properly kneaded. If you not properly knead your dough, your bread, she's not gonna rise. So let me ask a question at this point. As this bread is resting now, what is happening to it? Is the bread cooling down? Or is it dissolving? Or is the yeast fermenting? I want to see the answer to this question. What do you think is the answer to this question? What is happening to dough when it is resting? What happens to a dough that is resting? And why is it important to rest the dough? So let's first start with what is happening to the dough that is resting. While you are thinking about the answer to that question, let us start our bread hack one. I promise to share with you a very, very interesting bread hack that I use to make bread eating fun for me and my family. And one of the bread hack is called bread crumb crunchy bites, right? So I'm going to be sharing that with you right now. But I need to see the answer to that question about resting. Oh, no stick pan, no stick pan. So All right, so let me bail you out. When the dough is resting, the yeast is fermenting inside the bread. It's giving the yeast time to begin to ferment inside the bread, and something else is happening. The gluten structure is forming without much stress. This is a handmade bread, so you want to give the dough as much time as possible to rest. If you skip on resting, you are just going to build muscle for nothing. You'll just be stretching and you'll be kneading and kneading. But if you understand the simple pauses and breaks that are important in making bread, you don't need to overwhelm yourself while making bread. Bread making is very, very much easy and fun. All you just need to do is to understand that it's a technique, and that settles it. So let's get started with our very first bread hack. For the bread hack, I'll be using this delicious loaf of sourdough bread made by yours truly, 8th Barrel, to make crunchy bites. All you need to do is grab a few loaves of this, like so, cut off the sides to make it into squares or rectangles, as the case may be. You see, this comes out so beautifully. Yeah. So now we have this, right? Now I'm going to put my pan on fire. Sorry, let me show you. My pan on fire. Good. So, good. I'm going to be adding 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. This is cinnamon. Just very small, 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon, or a pinch of cinnamon if you like. Sorry about that. Yeah. Into this bowl, and I'm going to be going with 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. I'll give this a good mix. It's too small for the fork to mix. Let me just shake it. So this is it. This is what I have here. Good. So this is it. At this point, my pan is already getting hot. So I'm going to be pouring 1 tablespoon of oil into the pan. One tablespoon of oil into the pan. Just lightly oil in the pan while I sprinkle the sugar and cinnamon mix into the pan. I poured it in, and while that is becoming gelatinized, I'm just going to slice this up into small bites, small sizes. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to the pan. Like this, in circular motion, so that it can absorb the sugar and cinnamon mixture I just did. If you are here, this aroma is giving, because the sourdough bread already has a very, very flavorful aroma on its own. like it's effortlessly flavorful. Then adding this to it is another banger. Just going to turn it up so that the other side can also absorb the mixture. I'm turning it. It's getting hot, so let me use a fork. I don't burn myself. Yeah, so I'm tossing it like this. Perfect. So we're going to let it toast for a little while our bread is resting. These breadcrumbs I will store them for a future time. You can use these breadcrumbs to make a soup thickener. Let's say you are making, probably you made a egusi soup or you made a white soup and it's too watery. Just carry these breadcrumbs, toast them again in a non-stick pan or in a dry pot. Let them dry up. Blend it and pour it inside your soup. The taste is divine. It's really, really nice. That's why I do not joke with my breadcrumbs. I'm not going to throw them away. I'm going to store them up for later. So let me check what is cooking. It's coming out nicely already. Wow, this is looking really good. Really, really good. The scent is blowing. I'm not going to blow away. I'm not going to blow away. All right. So let's say you just come back from work and you're just, hungry. You don't want to really do serious cooking yet. You want to just snack up on something. This is a very, very healthy snack to have. So let me put this away so that I can show you what we have made together. Our fun bread hack number 1 has been successfully achieved. So I'm keeping my breadcrumbs. As I told you earlier, I do not joke with them. Crunchy and crispy. It's about to be ready. So I'll simply set this aside. All right. Oh, she's looking good. Children absolutely love this snack. It's already caramelized. Whoosh. Nice, 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 nice. You want to see that. So this is what the crunchy bites look like. This is all but done. All right. So the crunchy bites are ready for your snacking pleasure. Can you feel the crunchiness? Can you hear it? It's crunchy and delicious. Now come and have a taste. Really delicious. So let me taste it on your behalf. Hmm, it's nice. A quick snack can be a cracker. And what can actually replace a cracker if you don't want to throw away the leftover bread you have. You just want to do this crunchy. So, let me it's all for you. Okay, so that's it. This tastes good, really good. I do harvested. Now you work on it again. Remember, I said lightly flour, not too much, right? Just lightly, so that it's already even feeling bubbly. This is really good. You push and you bring it back. You push and you return. That's how it works. Bread making is all about patience. You need to be very, very patient. You cannot rush the fermentation process. If you want to rush the fermentation process, if you want to rush the kneading process, you are going to end up with a bread that is not proper. If anything has taught me patience in my life, it is bread. There was time when I was learning how to make bread, and I had to consult a lot of videos and all of that. So I saw something that was always happening. They will knead and knead and knead. I'm like, do I need to knead all this, do all this kneading? Once it has formed, let me just do the bread now. Bah. That thing was bothering me until one day I now actually did the bread. Oh God. I couldn't eat the bread though. It was like stone. Because I skipped on kneading. I skipped on all these important processes. And I was the one that suffered for it at the end of the day. So make sure that you do not let, would I say, impatience or tiredness get the better of you when you are making bread. Just stick with it. Now it's still a little bit sticky. I have added a little flour at this point, but I'm not going to add any more. I'll just deal with it. If anything, instead of adding flour, add a little bit of oil. But you have to be careful too, because oil has a way of making the bread loosen up. So you don't want to add too much oil, and at the end of the day, the bread doesn't hold anymore. It becomes like cake. So there's a thin line in kneading bread. You really want to make sure you achieve balance as much as possible, right? So you can see it's coming loose and sticky, but just stick with it. If you have a knife, fine. But if you have a dough scraper, even better. So I'll just be using my dough scraper, scrape it off like this, and continue kneading. So remember. So I'll just put a little bit of flour. Remember that at this point, you want to be gentle. The bread might be becoming too. Again, the recipe we're using makes a sticky dough, and that's why the bread is very, very soft. So just be gentle with it and be patient with it. It will all come together at the end of the day, and you get that delicious bread that you want to have. It's just a matter of patience. Please, if you have questions at this point, I want to get your questions. I want to answer your questions, and I want to know what is on your mind. So feel free to ask any questions you have at this point. Wow, you can see that the bread is already even forming. Like, you can see the bread is already becoming elastic. Over kneading. Have you ever heard about it before? Please just type yes or no in the comment section. Have you ever heard about the word over kneading before? Over kneading. Who knows what over kneading means? What does over kneading mean? So over kneading simply refers to over mixing or over kneading the dough. When you have kneaded the bread over, that's it. What shows you that you have over kneaded your dough? When the bread starts becoming like thread. That usually happens when you use a mixer or a mixing machine. Yes, it rarely happens when you hand knead your bread. But over kneading is actually a thing. It destroys the gluten structure completely. So if you have a mixer at home and you are making bread, always be attentive to when your bread has reached. Do not be tempted to over mix the bread, because kampe they say you should make the bread soft and fluffy. So you want to be patient with the bread. You now go and become over patient. Your bread is going to tear. The gluten mesh is going to tear and collapse. That is why balance is the most important thing. You have to understand that there's a thin line between skill and balance. In fact, when you are skilled, you know that you need to balance at some point. So make sure that when you are kneading your bread, especially if you have a mixer, you do not abandon your bread and go and be doing another thing. Always monitor your bread. Always look at what you are doing, so that you don't end up over kneading the dough, because that is another problem on its own completely. And believe me, you do not want to have that problem at all. So you see how I'm just lightly adding flour, lightly, and the bread is already forming. It's already looking like what you want it to look. And I'm happy with the results we are getting. It shows that we are doing a lot of things right. Believe me, if you make your bread like this, you will not have any issues at all. Your bread will not come out strong if you follow all these techniques that I'm sharing with you. When you see the bread coming out from your hand, it shows something. If you stick in and doing like this already, it shows that you are getting close. You see? Sorry about that. My table is angry with me. So so our gluten network is already fine. There's no doubt about it. You can see that the bread can even detach from the table. Okay, you can see that from the table on its own to an extent. So just keep at it. Just be patient. Scrape again and keep going. Don't worry about the stickiness. It's part of the job. It will come together nicely and you'll be rewarded for your patience. Yes. You see, it doesn't require muscle. You see this kneading? It's tactics. It's not muscle. Don't be using your chest and doing like this. No. Just do it gently so that you don't tire out quickly. Because if you put too much force, or you're remembering that person that told you that made you angry, you can end up wearing yourself thin. You will just quick tire for nothing. So it's just a technique that requires gentle handling, right? Kneading is a very, very gentle process. So our bread is coming together. We are liking what is happening here. I am loving what I'm seeing here. You love yours as well. When you do yours, or if you are doing it with me already, you love what you're already seeing. So just keep at it and remain patient. The light is coming already. Our gluten is forming, and we'll soon do a test for it. But before then, let's just keep working, right? So I'm going to go in with the last small portion of oil I had remaining for the bread. I love putting it at this point because it just makes everything different, right? So I'm just pouring it on the table like this and then slathering the bread with it. So you see it. So this just gives the bread that smoothness you want to see. Makes the bread really smooth. Oh, this bread is gonna be a banger. I can feel it in my bones, man. We are making something beautiful together. I'm happy that you are a part of this. So you see how it's smooth now. To still enter the bread, but don't add more oil than this. This was just the remaining part of the oil, the 60 grams of oil for the bread. So the remaining part of it. So this is what we have here. Continue folding and stretching, folding and stretching as you go, folding and stretching. I'm craving my snack. Let me just take a few punches. Nice. All right, we're almost there. Almost there. Not yet there, but almost there. So we're going to let our bread rest for the second time. Again, this resting helps the gluten mesh to form. Do not keep on resting on, no matter what you do. Can you see how the bread is looking nice already? It's not yet there, but it's almost there. All right. So I'll put this away so we can go on to the second part of the fun bread hacks while we wait, right? So we're going to be making another interesting, fun bread. Stay with me because this one is going to be a whole more fun. So for this is called eggs in a hole, right? It's called eggs in a hole. And for good reason. So I still have my 8-berry sourdough loaf here with me. I'm so in love with this sourdough bread. Let me even tell you a little bit about this sourdough bread. This sourdough bread, very, very healthy and gut-friendly bread. Healthy and gut-friendly. That's what this sourdough bread is. Because it's made with natural starter. There is no processed yeast. Like this yeast I use for this bread, it's not what we use to make this sourdough bread. This sourdough bread is made with natural yeast. So we have the starter, which we made from the wild because there's yeast everywhere in the air, right? So we culture the yeast and use it to make this sourdough bread, making it a very, very healthy bread. Now, because this sourdough bread I have here is not the regular rectangular loaf, so what I'm going to be using is 2 slices of sourdough bread. instead of one. So I can really get value for my work. Right. Exactly. Let's perform a miracle here. A miracle of bread. Bread wonders. Sorry about that. So let's see how this is going to come together. I've never tried this before, so I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I usually use one slice of bread, but because sourdough bread is not really a conventional looking loaf, we're going to do this trick here. Let's see how it's going to turn out. So you just carry a cup or a plate like so and make a hole inside the bread. Make sure you get it nice and round. Yeah, so this my little miracle did not work. Okay, it's coming out. All right, taking shape. Nice, nice, nice. Because I'm not a miracle worker, so I cannot perform miracle, right? That's it. But then whatever the case may be, we've done a little trick. And yeah, so we have our hole out here. After that, I'll just remove this hole in the middle. Bakam. Oh, it's looking really nice, like a flower. Oh my god. See it? Looks really cute. So I'll keep the crumb with the other crumb. I told you I'm not going to throw my crumb away. We don't do that here. Good. So now this looks nice. I'm going to put my pan on fire. Nice. Nice. All right. So my pan is already on fire. I'm going in with just 1 tablespoon of oil. 1 tablespoon of oil does the job. And then I'll crack an egg. In a bowl, just get a bowl, crack open an egg, like so. That's it. After that, I have some seasoning here, some spices rather. Sorry. Good. Hope you can see what I'm doing. And then this is pepper, a little seasoning, and a little bit of salt, right? Do not forget to add onion. If you like onion like me, I do not fry my egg. Sorry, I do not fry my egg without onion ever. I make sure to add onion to my egg. So that's it. Now the oil is already hot in the pan, so I'm going to toss this into the pan, maintaining this beautiful shape. See it? Yeah. So now that I have my bread inside the pan already, I'll just give this a good whisk. A really good whisk. I have tomato sauce, which I want to add to this just to give it a little bit of color. It's a lot of onions, right? I love onions. Yeah. So that's it. So this is looking colorful already. And now I'm pouring it into the bread that is on the pan. Can you hear that? That sizzling sound. So this works greatly, especially if you don't want to fry egg in one place and then carry your bread in one place, and maybe the bread will be cold and boring. Just fry the egg inside the bread, and we call that eggs in a hole. Thank you very much. So while we wait for that to be ready, let us take a sneak peek on what's going on inside our bread. Whoa, it's resting and looking good. All right, see. Whoa, 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 whoa. At the last need, we're going to let it proof because that time it will be ready for the final proofing. So let's leave it covered and let it rest a bit more. This is looking nice already. I'm going to give it some time to keep forming, right? So it's really looking good. Really looking good. Now I'm going to turn it, flip it over on the other side. It was a very, very disastrous flipping over because I used two bread, two slices of bread to make it. You don't want to know what's going on here, but don't worry, I'll show you the end result. This looks absolutely incredible. Whoa. But I know it's going to taste good, sharp, because there's a lot of onions. Emphasize the onions inside this. Yeah, I love onion, man. Maybe a little too much, but then don't judge me. That's just how I am. Okay, it's coming together. I don't want it to get burnt, so I'm not going to leave it like unattended to, right? Just let me just take the heat a little lower so that we can. Aha, now this looks better. Aha, what I'm talking about, man. So last my village people did not make it. They did not make it. They wanted to make it, but they did not make it. Okay, so our eggs in a hole is just about done. Whoa, let me show you what it looks like. You're gonna like it. Woo-hoo. The smell here, if I can't even be the aroma, be the fragrance, I don't even know which English I will use. But this place is scenting heavenly. This scents so good. Ah, I can't wait to eat it for you. I wish you guys were here, but well, since you are not here, let me just do a good deed by eating your own portions. Hey, well, Hi. With sourdough bread. Oh God. Oh. Hi. This looks really good. So if you want to make a quick snack for your children or a quick breakfast for a busy mom or for yourself, you just want to do something real quick, you don't want to start doing too much, this is the best bread hack for you, right? Very, 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 very easy. And of course, wait for it. Let's see how it tastes. I cannot even lie. Mm-mm, mm, 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 mm-mm. Aye. Now I've tried this with our potato bread, oh, but I've never tried it with our sourdough bread before. It gives a different level of flavor. The flavor profile is different. Like it hits differently. My daughter is itching to taste this. Let me just call her to come and grab a slice of it. Come on. You cannot wait to taste it, right? Come on, come on, come on. You're welcome. Grab one and taste it. Is it hot? Is it nice? Like it? Good job. Like, go on. You see? Children don't lie. So, should I leave this one for my husband or should I eat it? Tell me what. Tell me, Jita, what to do. Should I leave it for him or should I eat it? If you don't answer me in the comment section, I'm going to eat it. Oh, I thought I said I should leave it for him. So, who should I listen to? Myself or my daughter? My mind is telling me eat this thing. So, what do you think I should do? Who do you vote for? It's going on. It's going on. Hey, I should please give him. Okay. All right. Here you go. Come on, let me feed you. Come, 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 come. Oh, you need some. Oh my God. Here you go. Say ah. All right. Here you go. So you see, I'm a good wife. I've given him. Before people say that I ate everything, I did not eat everything. I gave him. Good. All right. So now let's check our bread and see how it's looking at this point, right? Good. It has rested quite a bit. Now we go to the last stage of kneading the bread. This feels really good in my hands. Like at this point, none of my students should have any issue making bread. If you follow these steps, bread making will be literally as easy as ABC. As I said, this class will be translated in sign language. So if you know any deaf person that can benefit from this class, please tell them to go back and watch this video because this video will be available for watching subsequently. So remember to knead gently, not tearing. At this point, the gluten mesh is already forming. So you want to be even more careful and intentional with the structure you are building. That you don't end up tearing the network of gluten that is forming in the dough. So you push and you turn, push and you turn, push and you turn like this, gently. Just keep at it. It's coming together. It's going to be really nice and rewarding. Making bread by yourself and eating it after you make it, especially when you make it by hand, is one of the most rewarding feelings ever. Like it's really eating the fruits of your labor. So this is the Tangzhong milk bread that we are kneading and it's coming out really beautifully. So, oh, I can see. When are you eating your own? Very, very soon. You're going to eat your own very, very, very soon. Good. So we're still building structure. Stay with me because we are going to be doing a third bread hack while our bread is proofing for the last time, and we are going to be answering some very, very important questions and troubleshooting some common errors and challenges that bakers have when making bread before we go over to the Q&A section. So please do well to stay tuned because there's still a lot more waiting for you on this show. So soft and supple to the touch. Still forming. We're not there yet, but we'll get there soon enough. So question time. Any questions? Any issues around bread making you have or have had in the past? Share with me so that I can discuss that while we do this together. We are building our gluten structure slowly with intention. And it's going to come together really well. It's already getting there. You can see the surface tension of the bread is already building. You can even see air pockets already forming in the bread. So how do you know if the gluten structure is formed? That's a very good question. There's something called the window pane test, right? When you stretch the dough to a particular level and you can see a transparent, you can see it's almost there. You can see like a transparent part of the bread where light can pass through it. More like you can pick and see. That's when you know the gluten structure is fully formed. But we are not yet there. When we are there, we are going to do the window pane test and you see for yourself if the gluten structure has been properly formed or not. For now, we are going to patiently keep doing this and building the structure. Just think about what it takes to make a crochet bag, even if you've not made a crochet bag before. But knitting involves building structure, right? We are building structure. It requires patience. It takes time, but it's time well worth it so that you can get that beautiful, soft, and fluffy bread that you want. You have to wait for it, right? So it's a whole process. But as I said earlier, it is very, very rewarding. Very, very, very rewarding and exciting. Sorry about that. Any other question? Any other question? So who can remember what the paste we made was called? What's the name of the paste we used to make our bread? The paste we used to make bread is what called what? The paste we used to make this bread. The paste we cooked to make this bread. What's the name of that paste? Tangzhong. Yeah, very, very good. Tangzhong. It's called Tangzhong rule. So what is the importance of using this Tangzhong rule? Why do we use this Tangzhong in making bread? Especially for handmade bread. Why do we use it? To soften the dough. Yes, to soften the dough. Apart from the dough, what kind of bread does it result in? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So what kind of, thank you for the compliment. Hygienic environment you got there. Thank you so much. We have to try because we're handling food, right? Good. So that's very, very important. So apart from softening due to bread, the finished product of the bread, what does Tangzhong do to the bread? What does Tangzhong do to bread? It softens the bread. Exactly. I like your answer. So it softens the bread. It makes the bread soft. It makes the bread chewy. Can you see what is happening here? Our gluten structure is already forming. This is one of the most important parts. It's not yet there. It's not yet there, but it's almost there. It's almost there. See, we're already getting to that texture that you want to have. Yes, so we'll continue kneading. We'll continue in about 5 minutes or less. We are going to get the result we want. So I'm still waiting for questions. Questions. Who has questions? Feel free to ask. I'm here for you. I'm here to answer all the bird questions you have. So shoot your shots. Question time. You can see how our bread is no longer sticking to the table. Remember when it was sticking before? And it was looking like it was not going to detach. That's detached though, this life. So how long does it take to make bread? It's a very, very tricky question. Oh. Bread making can take roughly 2 to 3 hours. That involves the mixing time, the proofing time, and the baking time. It should take longer than that because artisan loaves like the sourdough bread I just showed you, the one we used to make this our egg in a hole and crunchy it takes close to 20 hours to make that bread because it's a slow rising bread. But regular bread that is made with instant yeast takes shorter time. But one thing you need to know is that the longer it takes to make the bread, the more flavorful the bread is. So it is very, very important. This process requires a lot of patience. If you are not patient, you cannot make bread. See, our dough is coming together nicely, beautifully and nicely. Some people are scared of this process. They feel, this thing, me, I don't have the energy for it. Oh. But what you need to think about is that you are building something, and building takes time. So if you see, it really keeps your eyes focused on the end result. I mean, see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, drum rolls. Now, can you see it? This is the window picture. Somebody asked, how do I know when bread like this without it tearing? Know that your bread is ready. Your gluten structure has formed, and so it can trap air, it can trap gas. But it's not as smooth as I would like. So I'll still need it for a minute or two before I now leave it to proof. But as far as gluten structure is concerned, the gluten structure of this our bread has been formed for us. We stuck with it, and of course, we're going to reap the rewards of patience in a very, very short while, right? Good. It's coming out really nicely. Really, really, really nicely done. Can you see this? Can you see this? Good. This is really nice. So now we have this. Now we have this. Exactly. If someone makes you bread by hand, appreciate the person because it is no jokes. Exactly. So now we have our flour pan. I'm going to be putting the bread in here to proof, right? So I'm going to be letting the bread to proof for a couple of minutes before we shape the dough. It's going to allow the bread to get more flavor because fermentation is everything when it comes to bread. So now we allow the bread proof before we come back again to shape it. And now it's time for our third fun bread hack. Are you ready? Ready? If you're ready, just type ready. Let me see those that are ready to see bread pizza. You don't need to buy pizza from me. If you have bread, you can eat pizza. Believe it or not, I got the hack. Want to see it? If you want to, just tell me yes. Do you want to see the hack? Let me know who is with me on this table. So how many yeses do we have? Ready. Good. Ready, ready, ready. That is good. I love the engagement. It's really nice. All right. Good. So let's go and make our bread pizza. The first thing we're going to do is to make sure that our pan is ready. So I'm just basically prepping the pan at this point. Sorry, let me just adjust some things. All right, it's good. You see, kneading the bread, I was not pushing the table. I don't know when I pushed the table, the table was going away. Bread pizza. So for this bread pizza, we're going to use our bread, still the sourdough bread, some good old margarine, tomato sauce, and of course, onion. Before I start, I'm going to preheat the pan. So let me put the pan on fire. I'm going in with a tablespoon of oil into the pan. So while that is happening, I'm going to take my bread. Because I have many people that want to eat this bread, now I have to make more than one. Let's just go with two. To make our bread pizza, the first thing we do is to rub our margarine on the bread like so, and generously, right? You want to make sure you slather it generously to slice of bread. Go with the second slice and do the same. Slather, slather, slather. So when you have it on all sides as much as you want, excuse me. So now we have tomato paste. This is stew, but if you have tomato paste, you can just add it on top. So I'm going in with this, rubbing it on the bread like so. Putting it on this one also. See this? Looking nice, isn't it? Exactly. Now I have some chicken. Just putting it on top. The bread slice. Oh, it's already looking good. Oh. All right. Now we have this here. Isn't this nice? Isn't this looking yummy? Tell me if you like what you see. Tell me if you like what you see. Now, we go in with onions. My favoriteest parts. So onion, 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 sprinkle to the top of the bread like this. And some people will say that is plenty onion. I just but it's pizza now, you get, so it has to have onions inside it. Good job. All right. So now we have done this. So I'm putting this into the pan. Sorry. Hope you can see what is happening here. Good. Toss it into the pan neatly and then we cover it up for a couple of minutes. Now we check our dough. Wow. This looks absolutely amazing. Can you see this? Looks really good. Like really, really good. This is going to come out. But I'm short of words. But let's just let it rest for a while before we shape it and then we put it in the baking pan for the final proofing. Now we can start to do something. We can start to butter the baking pan. So I'm going to get the baking pan I want to use and show you how I butter it. Remember that we are baking in a pot today. We're not baking in an oven. So that you understand that with your pot, you can make a bread. This is the pot I'll be using. And this is my pan of choice. In the pot, I have sand. Clean sand. This sand is very, very important for heat circulation in the pan, in the pot. You want to make sure that it spreads around the pot. So you have to add that sand to it. Without that sand, you will not have the kind of heat circulation you want to have in the pot. So that said, let us butter our pan before the bread we're making, before the pizza we're making gets ready. Yes. So just do this. Carry the margarine and spread in the baking pan. This is important to the sides of the pan. Yeah. So I hope you have answered your question about the sand. So I butter the baking pan. This is what it looks like. Baking pan is here. Hey, it's almost ready. Let me reduce the fire a little so that it doesn't get burnt. But our pizza is taking good shape. All right, in a couple of minutes, pizza will be ready for eating. So before that time, we can go on and shape the dough. Our bread has rested enough. Now it's time to shape the dough. Why do we shape the dough? Shaping is a process that helps the bread create surface tension. If you don't shape the dough, when it's rising, it will spread out. It will not rise up. So the process of shaping helps the bread, as I said earlier, create surface tension. So you have to put the bread in an equivalent quantity with your baking pan. So this is a small baking pan I'm using for today, and this dough is already bigger than the baking pan. And I want to make it like 4 different sizes, like equal sizes into the baking pan. Then the other, I'm going to bake it separately in the oven. But just for the purpose of this class, I'm going to be cutting the parts I want into 150 gram sizes each. So let me get my scale. You want to make sure that your measurement is as accurate as possible. Even if you don't have a scale, you can just eyeball it. But in baking is a science. So everything has to be as accurately measured as possible. So 150 grams of each dough is what I'm measuring now. Two. Perfect. So we have 4 here. So this is what is left over. I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to freeze it up. It makes for a very, very special thing I'm going to tell you later in this class. Always having a leftover batch of dough helps save you when you want to bake something, because it creates a different flavor entirely. But that is not what we're going to be focusing on today. So now that I have cut out the 4 shapes I need for my bread pan, let me check my pizza. Oh, our pizza is ready. So let me turn it off so that the residual heat can work its magic while I shape the dough. So shaping is pretty much like kneading, but you are being intentional about the ends of the dough. So at this point, you are folding it to make a closed end. To tighten it, remember, surface tension. You want to make sure that here is smooth and here is tight, so that air does not escape while the bread is puffing. See this? Very, very important. Very, very important. So I'm putting this one at a time into the pan. Can you see this? Good. Now we go on to the next part of it. The second one is there. Now we're going to the third one. Remember that each of the bread balls are 150 grams each. You want to make sure that you seal up the ends as much as possible. So this is what we have here now. Looking good, right? Now, in order for us to have the crust not to dry out, we're going to rub a little oil on it, so that when it's proofing, when it's rising, it doesn't dry out, because it's going to be stretching, right? So I just carry my pastry brush and then rub it gently like so. This is about it. So this is what we have here now. Looking nice, isn't it? Correct. All right. So I'm going to set this aside into an oven. It's not going to bake. Oh, the oven is hot, so it's not going to bake inside. Just going to put it inside for it to proof, right? And after some time, we're going to bring it out before we start baking. So let me put it for it to proof. So it's proofing in there, resting, chilling. Now it's time to see our pizza. Can you see this? Can you see this? This is nice. This is nice. Very, very, very nice. So let me put it into a tray. So can you see this? Oh God. So let me just cut it like this into small, it's hot, pizza looking shapes. Ooh, still hot, still hot, still hot. Okay, oh, aha, oh God, oh, who say we cannot eat pizza with bread? God, I beg, go see pizza. Many people are looking at me, they want to chop the pizza. Oh God. So, hey, man, see layers of flavor from the margarine to the stew to the chicken and then to the onions. So you can actually add anything you want to add at this point. Ah, don't worry. I'm going to send it to you, Mama. All right. So add whatever you want to add at this point. If you have sweet corn, you have green beans, you have carrots, you want to make it more flavorful. But the idea is that with your delicious bread, you can eat pizza. Hmm? You don't have to go and buy pizza. You can make pizza with your bread and change the game of the bread completely. So, oh, who wants to have a taste of sourdough pizza? Oh, you can see my cameraman. He's already pushing the table. Oh God, you already grab it. You cannot wait. Mm-mm. Some are begging me from every angle. It's too nice. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm. Wow, it's really good. Don't worry. I didn't start with an empty stomach, but I'm going to leave with a full stomach. Mm. 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 Okay, come. Mm. 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 You cannot wait for their turn. They have to be begging. Turn around. Mm? Yeah, take. You're welcome. Bye. Mm. Mm. Can I get some water? To step this down. Let me take one more. Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 This is good. Wow. Mm. 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 You can actually have this with Zobo drink. It's going to be a different level of flavor. I had Zobo drink, but unfortunately, I finished. So I'll make another one. Next video, next week's class, we're going to have a lot of drinks to go with our bread. Please make sure you do as I'm doing so that I'm not be eating alone. That's why I say when I'm making, you make too. So that you will not say I'm being stingy. Okay, so this settles it. It doesn't do. Okay, so just remove all traces, all evidence of eating in this class. All right. Now, before I even talk about finger test on bread, I want to troubleshoot some questions that people usually have about bread. Some problems that people have about bread. We already talked about one, bread not rising properly. So if your bread does not rise properly, if you're just coming in or you just joining a little later than when we started, we discussed about it before. That if your bread does not rise properly, it's either because the yeast you have or the yeast you added to the bread was expired or it was bad, or the temperature around where you are baking that bread is too cold. So very, very cold temperatures affect the performance of your bread rise, right? And then third, we also established the fact that if you add too much salt in your bread, it will not rise, because as much as salt helps the yeast develop flavor, too much salt in your bread dough can actually kill the yeast. So you want to establish balance. Balance is with that. I'm going to be keeping this, saving it for later. I'll store it up in the freezer so that I can use it for another job later. And I'm going to explain to you why it's very, very important if you're baking bread to have a leftover dough to add to it, because it's a very, very important reaction in bread that I'm going to be explaining to you later in class. All right. So as I was saying, the next issue that some bakers commonly have when baking bread for the first time is that the bread comes out hard. What makes your bread come out hard? You notice that as I was kneading, I did not add too much flour. Flour, it can make your bread come out hard. So you want to make sure that as much as possible, you knead with as little flour as possible. Even if the bread comes out sticky, just add a little oil as you go. The oil you're adding to the bread should not be the oil, it should not be after you've added oil into the bread, if it makes sense. Only add the oil that the recipe calls for as you need, since you're kneading by hand. So you need, first of all, when the bread comes together, then you add oil as you go. That's a very, very easy trick for kneading bread by hand and making you have less challenges with bread coming out hard. Good. Another issue that makes bread hard is that you overbake the bread. If the baking time for the bread is about 20 minutes and you bake it for 30 minutes, the crust is going to come out too hard and dry. So you want to check the bread as you go. You don't want to open the bread too much while it's baking, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you time it and you stick to the time that is required for that bread to be properly baked. It's a balance that you have to try to achieve. Proof test. If you do that thing and you realize that the bread has not proofed enough, don't bake it at that time. If you bake it too early before it has proofed well, it means that the gas has not been able, the yeast has not generated a lot of gas inside the bread yet. So the bread will not come out soft and fluffy. It will become hard like a stone. You got it? Good. Now, what you need to do is that you knead your bread until the gluten mesh is formed. Even if you're going to add a little flour, don't add too much flour. Make sure that you knead as you go with a little bit of oil as much as possible. Then you allow the bread to rise properly and you bake it at proper temperature. Now, if your bread is rising and the bread is going like this, instead of going like this, what usually causes it? Somebody should answer that question in the comment section. What makes a bread spread flat instead of going up? What makes bread spread flat instead of rising upwards? What usually causes it? I'm waiting for your comment. Not properly shaped. Good. No idea. All right. Thank you for your contribution regardless. So, when you don't shape your bread properly, remember we talked about shaping the dough. If you don't shape your bread properly, you have not created a lot of surface tension for the bread to rise up. That is one culprit. So the bread will open its hand like this. It's not gonna go up, right? Second, if your bread is too much, is overhydrated. Remember, I said water is hydration in bread. So if you have too much water in your bread, your bread is not gonna rise up. It's gonna rise wide. So you have to make sure that you always check your moisture quantity and you check the way you shape your bread. Let water not be a problem in your bread. If you add too much water, although we have high hydration dose, with high hydration dose, that is those that call for a lot of a lot more water than regular bread, you have is actually a very, very tricky bread. The way you shape it matters, but usually you want to make sure you follow something called a baker's percentage. Make sure that the water the recipe calls for is the water you are using. I'm going to explain all about baker's percentage in the next class. So make sure you attend the next class so you learn a lot more details about how and what to do and what to avoid when you are baking certain types of bread. So that's about it. Let us have a sneak peek at our bread and see what it looks like now. Can you see it? Can you see how it's already coming up? It's not yet there, but it's going to be there really soon. In about 10-20 minutes, I'm not even be up 20 minutes. What we want from this bread. You see, it is underproofed. It has not proofed properly. Now let us just do a little talk about the finger test. When you touch the and it springs back right up, it bounces back, though dishy, it has not reached. It is still underproofed. If you bake the bread at this point, the bread will come out like stone. You still have to give it time. So let's give it more time. The idea is that the bread should at least double in size before you bake it. At least like 1.5 or double in size. So that's the principle that most bakers use. At least 1.5 the original size, the bread is not ready for baking. And if you break it, you're going to ruin the bread. Ruin it completely. I don't want to do that. So in about 5 minutes, we are going to start preheating our pot because we have to preheat the pot and the pot has to reach an ambient temperature of at least 100 degrees. At least. Yeah, it should be about 130 degrees. But if you can achieve 100 degrees with your pot, since we're using a pot to bake, you're good to go because it has a smaller surface area. And of course, you put sand inside, so your bread will surely do well. Right? So that's about it. So let's just do a little bit of question and answer at this point. Hit me with your questions, hit me with your questions, hit me with your challenges. I want to know what's going on your mind. If you've ever made bread before, if you've ever tried making bread before, let me know. Just let me know. Let us engage. Let's discuss while we, so that these 5 minutes while waiting will count, right? Question time. Who is asking the question? Who is asking us questions at this point? Who has questions? Let us know who has questions, let us know. Ask me questions now. I want to answer all your questions. So, how do I speed the proofing time? Yes, sometimes it's natural to get impatient with the waiting process, right? So we want to rush the proofing time. There are bits, there are a little. Okay, another question is, after we are done baking, I hope you will send it ready. That's a very, very important question. All right, don't worry, we'll talk about that later. You got no worries. You got no worries. So, there are a few tricks that you can use to speed up baking time, although it's not encouraged when it comes to baking, because speeding up the fermentation process really does not allow yeast to do all its work in the bread. Yes, you might get the bread to rise, but you might not really get the flavor. The flavor profile you want will not be there. So if you want to speed up bread, don't say I don't want you, but if you want to speed it up, probably you don't have enough time, or you're just so hungry, or whatever the reason might be, carry a bowl of water, carry a bowl and put in hot water. When you put hot water inside the bowl, let's say this is the bowl, you put hot water inside, you cover the bowl with a pan or a tray, and then put the baking bread inside. So like this my pan now that I have put my bread inside, I can just put it on top the tray that has boiled water underneath. Then I'll cover it. That heat from the bowl of boiled water would make the bread rise faster. That's a technique that can work. Another is, you maybe if you're cooking in your kitchen and your kitchen is warm, you close your kitchen doors and put the bread inside. If the bread is in a warm environment, so you increase the temperature. If probably where you are making the bread is not warm, put it in a warmer place, or put it close to the oven, or put it in an oven that you have on before. Let's say you have turned on the oven for some point, sorry, for some reason, and you turn it off. Don't put it in a hot oven, no. The yeast will die. But when you have turned off the oven for some moments or for some minutes, then you can now go ahead to put the bread inside. It will make the bread rise faster. But as I said earlier, this is the key when it comes to bread making. We don't want to rush fermentation. We don't want to rush fermentation because it will change your flavor profile completely. Just stick with it. Just wait for it. All the beautiful results you want your bread to have will come, and you will enjoy the bread. You will hit it, and it's going to be rewarding. But just wait for it. It's worth the wait every single time. I'll tell you from experience, because when it comes to shortcuts, haba, I've done many shortcuts with bread, and it didn't used to pay me off. Like wanting to speed things up, wanting to cut corners just to make the work faster, save stress, save time, and all of that. But I got to realize that doing things the way it's supposed to be done, especially when it comes to bread, is the best thing ever. Over time in the bread business, I even when it comes to using ingredients, I've come to realize that when you replace natural ingredients with chemicals, you don't get optimum results. That is the reason why we don't even make chemical-based bread. There are so many chemicals that speed a lot of things for you in bread. A lot of bakeries don't use just yeast, though. Something called improver. They use these improvers to make the bread bigger, make the bread when you are baking the bread. Because if you're baking on scale in a commercial scale, you need to have the bread looking very pumpy and puffed up with pride. So they use improvers so that the bread will not collapse in the oven while baking, and the bread will look big and soft and fine. But these improvers are chemicals. As much as they are not extremely harmful to the body in small quantities, using them in large quantities have side effects. And trust our Nigerian brethren, we want to maximize profit as much as possible. So what's the guarantee that they are using the approved quantity? A lot of the time, they use much more than is required so that they can make more money, right? And this is really affecting people's health. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that cutting corners does not really pay anybody. Just doing the right thing and following due process is the best way to go. It might be slow, it might look like you're wasting time, but it's rewarding at the end of the day. Your conscience will be clean first of all, and really be proud of your work. But if you cut corners, you won't even have dignity that comes with labor. There's supposed to be dignity in labor. But if you follow shortcuts, where is dignity? There's no dignity. So one try as much as possible to do things the right way. When it comes to bread, give it time. The rewards will pay off at the end of the day. Any other questions? Hmm? Wow. 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 This is really nice. So our bread is looking good. Very, very good at this point. Now I can start preheating the oven. Sorry, preheating the pot. So that it start getting hot and we'll just toss the bread for it to take shape, right? Good. All right. So we are preheating the pot now. You have to make sure that you keep your temperature in the pot as stable as possible. Having a very, very having a very, very stable sorry about excuse my laugh, please. So as I was saying, sorry, 1 minute. Something interesting just happened here right now. So let me just okay. All right. So as I was saying, having a very stable temperature in the pot or in your oven is very, very important for your bread because something is going to happen. It's called oven spring. Your bread is supposed to rise again for the last time before the yeast stops acting. So if the place you are baking the bread, be it your pot or the oven, is not hot enough, the bread will not oven spring. If anything, it will collapse. So you want to make sure that you allow the pot or the oven become hot enough. Not too hot, oh. I said an ambient temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, but you can go as much as 130 degrees if you have your baking thermometer, yeah, with you. So I can already perceive, the um sand burning inside the pot already. So it shows that something is happening, right? It's getting hot. So we're going to keep it there. 150 degrees is very, very amazing. It's very, very good if you're using an oven. 150 degrees is the ideal temperature for using an oven. But I say 100 degrees because of the fact that it's a pot that we're using to bake today. But if you're using an oven, 150 degrees is the standard. And you bake for about 20 minutes, right? Do not keep on opening it and checking because the heat will escape. And the more you keep on opening the oven while you're baking, opening the pot while you're baking, that temperature fluctuation is not good for the bread at all, because a lot of things are happening while the bread is inside the pot or is inside the oven. A lot of reactions are taking place, and you don't want to interrupt that process with temperature fluctuation. So just keep it in mind that it will bake for at least 10-20 minutes. Depends on what you're baking with. What we are baking now will not take up 20 minutes to bake. Max it take 15 minutes to bake, because we're using a pot, a small surface area, and just a single loaf of bread. But if you're baking a bigger quantity of bread and you're baking it in an oven, it's supposed to take longer time. So it's just a game of checking what works for you, or not really what works for you, just following the principle of temperature and quantity and surface area and the baking equipment you're using at every point in time. That is why we started up this channel, because we understand that a lot of people maybe follow recipes. A lot of you that are watching today may have attempted making bread, but when it's not working for you, you might not know why you're making certain mistakes. That's why we're here. We want to educate you so you can understand the principles, the science of baking bread. Because I said earlier, bread making is a science. You can follow recipe from now to tomorrow and do things that you don't understand why you are doing them in the first place. But here with 8th burial bread class, you will understand why you are doing what you are doing. I encourage you to ask a lot of questions so that you can get clarity, so that you can get enlightened. Because it's only when you understand what you're doing that you're able to do it better. If you're just following rote principles or rote commands, you become like a robot. You not really understand why you're doing what you're doing, right? But we're here to help you understand what really goes on behind the scenes with baking. It was something I didn't get starting my bread making journey. And it made me think that a lot of people are like me too. A lot of you might want to own bakeries someday. A lot of you might just want to make delicious bread for your families. But if you don't have someone to really hold your hand and share with you what you really need to know and help you understand, then how is that going to work? When we started out, we didn't have anybody tell us how to do what we were doing. I had a passion for baking, yes. I used to make bread. I told you I was making with my hand on my own. And I was doing certain things wrong because I was following protocol, I was following recipe. But I didn't understand why I was doing those things. And when I met a couple of persons who I felt were going to hold my hand and show me the way, they didn't show me, because it's more like gatekeeping is very, very much in this industry. And I wonder why they are gatekeeping. Just show me what I need to do, guide me. And nobody did that for me. And I said, no, a time will come in my baking journey that I'm going to be different. I'm going to teach people what they need to know. It doesn't mean I'm going to lose customers. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop my own self from shining or kill my shine in any way. No, it just means that I'm going to help people, give them the help that I did not get, and we're going to grow a community moving forward. The sky is big enough for every bird to fly. Even if there are 1,000 bakers where I live, even if there are 1,000 bakeries where I live, my bread will still sell. Your bread will still sell. So why am I gatekeeping? What am I gatekeeping for? The most important thing is that we carry ourselves along and share knowledge as much as possible. So that's why I said at any point in time you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll share as much as I know so that all of us can actually enjoy and succeed in this journey together. I smell the bread, sorry, I smell the pot again, and this time it looks like it's getting really hot. Wow. Push. Okay. I wanted to go and grab the meeting. I didn't know I had a meeting here with me. A bit well. All right. So I think we're ready to put our bread into the pot. Now you can see what it has turned into. Do you see that it has indented? It's going back up slowly. When you poke the bread and it goes down and comes back slowly, it has proofed enough. When you poke the bread and it just bounces back up like it did before, it hasn't proofed. If you poke the bread and it goes down and collapses, it has overproofed. That bread is not gonna do well. So now this is the perfect proofing. This is perfect proof it needs, and now the bread is ready to bake. So I'm simply putting it In the pot, so I first of all put the sand, and then I put a small plate inside so that it doesn't directly touch the sand. Now I put the baking pan on top. This is going to bake for at least 15 minutes before it's done baking. So stay with me. We're about to reap the fruits of our labor. I wish I could share this bread to each one of you watching today. So just tell me, how should I send the bread? Is it via DHL or Waybill or post office? Just let me know what's the best way to get this bread across to you, and I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. Just tell me, how do you want me to send the bread to you? For staying this long and watching us, I appreciate you. And I want to send a taste of this bread to you. So what do you want me to do? How do you want me to send it to you? Let me know. Your house is in Lube. Okay. Your house is in Lube. I'll send the bread to you. No problem about that. So So this takes about 15 minutes to bake. We're done with the first 5 minutes. So we just have 10 minutes to wait. Thank you so much for watching to this point. It means a lot. And I'm sure that you're going to get a lot of benefits. You've gotten a lot of benefit from this class, as the case may be. So just stay tuned while we wait for the bread to bake. Please hit me with your questions, any observations. So one thing you need to do when you are making bread with a pot is that you want to be turning it, so you can encourage heat circulation all around. No be oven be this. So you have to do this little trick from time to time while it's baking, so you can encourage heat circulation all around the pot. That's a very, very important thing to do as well. So let me know what, if you have learned anything today. Tell me, what have you learned? If you have learned anything new today, tell me what you have learned that is new today. Tell me what you have benefited from the class today. I want to see. Let me know if you are making sense. Baking without an oven. Exactly. You have learned how to bake without an oven. You come to realize that you don't need an oven to make bread. Without an oven, wow, really, really looking nice. Our bread is taking serious shape, as in it has puffed top, looking brown. Hi, I'm so happy with what we have done today. We have accomplished a lot today with this bread, and I can't wait for the big reveal so that you will see what our hard work has resulted in. Maybe small thing, no, maybe small thing has been really amazing. In about 5 minutes, our bread should be ready. In about 5 minutes, our bread should be ready. So I asked a question before. If you have learned anything, anything at all from this class today, anything at all from this class today, please share in the comment section. I want to know what you have learned from class today. We have shared a lot. Okay, what have you learned? Okay, you should be turning the bread in the pot, right? So when you're baking it, you want to be turning it around. That's my daughter. She said that she learned that it's important to keep turning the pot while you're baking the bread in the pot. So you want to keep doing this, right? Don't just leave it in one place so that the heat will circulate well. Remember that this is not an oven. We're using pots to make bread. The technique has to be different. Now let's take a sneak peek at our bread. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoosh. The crust has formed. The crust has formed. So at this point, the bread will not collapse again. Yes. I used to have a lot of collapsing bread. Early on in baking, my bread used to collapse a lot because I told you this bread I'm doing is more like a self-taught thing. So I learned through a lot of mistakes. I think if I want to quantify how much the mistakes we have made making bread is worth, it's close to 10 million naira, give or take. And it was something that was avoidable if only we had someone that would hold our hands. But fortunately, we didn't. That's why I want to hold people's hands now. So I want to give what was never given to us. But that's aside. Next is all those soup. Our people is all those soup. I didn't know there was temperature crisis because by the time I got the kneading right, I'll see videos of people that will make bread and their bread is looking bouncy and soft. My own is doing so. Why is it doing so? And I realized there was temperature problem. So if you don't have a good understanding of how temperature works in baking, you always have soup kind of bread. Don't mind me. So you don't want to have that difficult, that challenge when you're making bread. So as much as possible, keep your temperature game tight. Make sure you understand your temperature and put your eyes on your bread temperature as much as possible so that you don't have funny or not so funny episodes with your bread. That's it. All right. Our bread should be ready. In a very short time, we'll be having our delicious bouncing loaf for our enjoyment. You can also check the doneness of the bread, how cooked it is. You can check it with a stick, a baker's stick. Or a fork, as the case may be. Okay, sorry. So this is skewer. I have a skewer here. So you can just check the doneness of the bread, how big it has become. Yes, now doneness is the word now, right? How you don't done. Yes, don't done. So the doneness, you got it. So how much it have done. Good. So you check how you don't do rich with the skewer. With the skewer. Okay. They're laughing at me here. They don't know that I am an English professor. So the bread is still dawning. Still remains small to dawn. Hi. Chai. We have done a very good job today. We have done a very good job today. We have done a very, very good. We should be proud of ourselves because for the first time On week one, we made a loaf of bread. This is history is being made that we started with just different ingredients on this table that were hanging loose, and we formed it into a loaf of bread and we are baking it together. It is a huge milestone. And I'm sure that even if you didn't bake along with me in this class, your confidence would have increased when it comes to baking bread, because this might be the first time you actually follow along this kind of class live. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. Let us give it a little time while we wait for the bread to be well done. There's any word like that? Right. So this can be a very, very um testing time, and test your patience a lot, because as I said earlier, bread requires patience. Bread will teach you patience. So if you're waiting, if you're baking on your own sometime and you're waiting for the bread to cook, don't go and sleep, because you think that the bread is taking time. Maybe you're tired. Let me just close eyes small. The bread is gonna burn. I remember one day, God, don't do bread. Don't put bread in the oven and go and sleep. Don't do that with your life. Don't do that. Don't ever do that to yourself. I was baking bread. I was doing bread. And I say, the bread I've taken in the oven, it's going to still taste small again. Let me just go, close my eye and sleep a little. Okay. It was the smell of burning bread that woke me up like, Papa, the bread turned black. Like the whole effort was in vain. I regretted it with my life. So when your village people are telling you just close eyes small, say no, 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 I'm not going to close my eyes small, anything. Don't close your eye. Instead, chew chewing gum. Talking about dance, good. Do something fun for yourself, but don't sleep. Whatever you do, don't go somewhere. Don't leave that baking room, or don't leave that pot and go and say, okay, let me just go and buy something and come back. Is that bread that is in white since you have been looking at it? Just go outside and come back, the bread will turn black. It has been white since we have been there. But that seconds, you just go and just go and come back, bread have changed. So don't do that. Don't do that. Speaking from experience, you see, when it comes, I don't think there's anything that bread, all the shege that bread want to show person you have shown me. Call it. All I've seen all the shege, nothing remain. So I'm in a very good position to tell you for free that you should not leave your bread when it's in the oven. Got it? Thank you very much. Abba, we are going there now. We are going there. You see, I can be pulling all these thumbs and pulling because it's pot. Oh, it's oven. I cannot be opening it and be closing it like this. Or because it's pot. And me, man, I cannot wait to eat my bread that I make with my hand. It's been long I made bread with my hand, to be honest. Because I'm always making bread with my mixer. I'm making bread on a large scale, right? So now I'm making bread with my hand, and seeing the bread turn out this way makes me so happy. Makes me, I feel so proud of myself. I'm proud of you too for joining me in this journey. Because if you were not here watching me, I wouldn't have wanted to be motivated to do this book. But since you are here, you're giving me morale. I'm happy about that. Okay, I just checked. Let me give it some time. Let me give it some time. Right. Say 3 more minutes. Okay, my daughter is asking that if I'm baking bread and I want to off the fire, or let's say I want to go somewhere while I'm baking bread, can't I off the fire and go and buy? I'm going to buy something, right? Good. So you see, we talked about stable temperature in baking. If you want to bake bread to get the results you want, you have to keep your temperature stable. By the time you turn off the oven, temperature will drop. Two things can happen. It's that your bread will collapse in the oven. Your bread collapses in the oven. Can you hear me? Good. All right. So our bread is ready. Our bread is what? Ready. See this. This is what we have made today. We actually made something today. We made a loaf of bread. Isn't that nice? Wow, this looks so good. Whew. This is a beautiful crust formed as a result of the Maillard reaction we talked about earlier. This is really nice. This is really nice. Can you see this? Just see how this opens up. You see, this is what Tangzhong does to your bread. You see this soft texture, this pillowy softness is what Tangzhong bread can give you. When you put that Tangzhong in your bread, it changes the game completely. So guys, this is what we have done this week. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Please do well to join us next week for another amazing episode of our 8th burial bread class. Can you let's keep quiet sometimes?